Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate, a weekly podcast where I walk you through some of the wildest, most unbelievable stories you'll hear from the world of real estate. If you like real estate and you love crazy, this is the podcast for you. Before we get any further into this episode, I've got some information to share.
Okay, do you ever have team members and employees who ask the same question over and over again? And you wish there was one centralized place to send them to find everything they knew to be productive and efficient? There is. Sweet Process is this really cool company. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, Leigh Brown, we want to sponsor the podcast." And I said, "Well, then, hey, Sweet Process, let me see what you offer." And I freaking love it. Here's why. It's a software that enables your company to have a central place for procedures, policies, and processes, all the 3 Ps. We'll just say that. And it becomes so easy for upper management, middle management, and then everybody in the organization to collaborate, because everybody's going to see these 3 Ps differently: procedures, processes, and policies. You can also know that this allows you to keep your processes really living and fluid, because you can change them at any time. You can organize and reprioritize, assign tasks. It's so intuitive. So it's really great because you have to have easy. In today's world, we're all overwhelmed. Easy is fantastic. And it also becomes this source of truth, because doesn't matter what level somebody is in your organization or on your team, they can find all the information for how to do the job well. And what better way to reward a team member who wants to go up in the organization than by seeing how they take things and run with it? Sweet Process gives them things to take and run. And also, this makes your training super easy. In fact, I started my Sweet Process journey with onboarding for my team members, because I need to make people more successful more quickly. And I love it, because now anybody around me can get their task done quickly, and the instructions are right there. Now, you should know they always offer a 14-day free trial. So high five, Sweet Process. That's super cool. But because you're Leigh Brown's people, what? You're going to get the 28-day free trial, which is great, because I know you'll sign up and totally forget because you're not organized yet. Then you'll use Sweet Process and you're going to love it too. So if you go to sweetprocess.com/crazy shit in real estate to sign up now, you don't even need to give them a credit card. So when you go to this link, by the way, they know that you came through Leigh Brown's people, and that gets you all the extra love. And then they'll want to let me keep playing with the product too. So go check out Sweet Process. Make your company stronger today. Love to know the one story that jumps in your mind.
The one that jumps, and it's just a recent, 30 years, but the most recent experience and story that I had, unfortunately, a friend of mine, he worked for me as a painter, and he just went down the wrong path, unfortunately, as some people do. And it was just really sad. And he had issues with addiction and all kinds of things like that. And he had lost a house, and he was in the process of losing another house. And a friend of his, who is a realtor, came to me and she said, "Look, I can't do this deal because I'm too close." And he knows you and he trusts you.
We got to give a high five to that realtor for finding that space to say, "I've got to do something better for my friend," because not everybody has the ability to step away. So had to pause and give a high five there. That's big.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and it was a journey. He had all kinds of problems that he was trying to work through, and I was trying to help him. I became a counselor. I became a realtor. I became a bail bondsman. I became all of these things. And it was the craziest journey to get him through. We had 3 escrows on this property. It kept falling out. He was a hoarder. He had lots of friends who would come over to the house at all times and trying to get through the finish line. But we ended up selling the house as is, where it is, full of all the stuff that was left. But the journey for me was I never could, he'd lose his phone all the time. I couldn't find him. I'd have to, every time I wanted to set an appointment, I would have to drive to the house and say, "Hey, so-and-so, I need to show the house tomorrow," or we've got somebody coming over. So the only way I could communicate was to drive 15 minutes to get to the house, to set the appointment. And then the next day or the next afternoon, drive back and hope that it was ready or available or whatever it was. So that was, I never had to go through that journey, and I was getting so frustrated. But I just kept my eye on the ball, and the ball wasn't the money. I lost so much money in this deal, just compared to the time I put in, compared to everything else. but I had so much compassion for the guy because I was like, oh man, I hope I never get to that space, but I need to help him because right now he's going to lose the house. We're on the courthouse steps. I'm stopping the sale and he's got over $100,000 in equity in the property. And it's just like, making me cry now just thinking about it because he couldn't do it for himself.
Right.
And so
he couldn't give himself the standard of care that you could give him as a professional.
Right.
And that's something that realtors forget when they're tempted to throw their hands up in a situation. I mean, there's times when realtors should walk away from a bad client, but this is not a bad client. This is a client in dire straits who needs to be cared for because he can't care for himself. But if you had thrown your hands up, Tom, who was going to help him?
Nobody.
And that's what frustrates me so much when we as humans, we don't take that one step back and say, okay, maybe I need to suck it up so that the other person can get to the other side. We all get to the other side eventually, but get them across the finish line first. And that's what you did here.
Yeah. And it was the journey of it too. It's just, our third contract fell out because of his inability to perform. And the buyer said, I'm out of here. One of the contracts the one fell apart because he didn't perform. The next one fell apart because the neighbor came out. They all didn't like this owner, understandably, because he was a problem neighbor. The one owner comes out, talks to the buyer, tells the buyer some untruthful things. The buyer says, I don't want to do this deal. And then 2 days later, that neighbor writes an offer on the house.
What an ass.
So, and it's just like, and I told their agent, tell that client they will never buy this house.
Karma will not come back from that person.
I was just like, you got to be kidding me. You just did that. So they went away. And then we got another, and it's all happening pretty quick. And I'm dancing with the commissioner. The commissioner is who manages our sales here, foreclosure sales here in Hawaii. And I'm dancing with the commissioner, and we had a great relationship. She was super helpful, telling me how to do the deal. Cause I don't do short sales. I don't do, foreclosures. That's not my thing. But this is my friend and I'm trying to help him. So we're working through that, and he finds his way to jail. And so I have to go to jail to get the contract signed.
Oh, you're enjoying this little clip? Well, the rest of the story is available on any of your podcast apps. Just go search for and subscribe to Crazy Shit in Real Estate with Leigh Brown.